sonder jou aangaan, eende wat ek sonder twyfel weet. Jy is nie net 'n nommer nie, en jy is deel van die groter prentjie. Daar's rede dat jy lewe, 'n doel vir jou bestaan. Daar's 'n plekkie in die son vir jou en my, 'n plekkie elkeen het 'n doel gekry. Al voel jy soos 'n sandkorreltjie klein wat in die grootste duin verdwyn. Jy vat my die hoogste hoogte se, die in die arend en die ander in die wind. Want almal is maar sandkorreltjies klein, maar saam is ons die mooiste ding. Maak 'n brander en jy weet, die son skyn oor ons almal en eende wat ek sonder twyfel weet. Jy is nie net 'n nommer nie, en jy is deel van die groter prentjie. Daar's 'n rede dat jy lewe, vir jou bestaan. Daar's 'n plekkie in die son vir jou en my, 'n plekkie elkeen het 'n doel gekry. Al voel jy soos 'n sandkorreltjie klein wat in die grootste duin verdwyn. Jy vat my die hoogste hoogte se, in die arend en die ander in die wind. Ons almal is maar sandkorreltjies klein, maar saam is ons die mooiste ding. Daar's 'n plekkie in die son vir jou en my, 'n plekkie elkeen het 'n doel gekry. Al voel jy soos 'n sandkorreltjie klein wat in die grootste duin verdwyn. Jy vat my die hoogste hoogte se, die arend en die ander in die wind. Ons almal is maar sandkorreltjies klein, maar saam is ons die mooiste ding. Jy vat my die hoogste hoogte se, in die arend en die ander in die wind. Ons almal is maar sandkorreltjies klein, maar saam is ons die mooiste ding. Just like the street lights lit this town, like a fire in a blaze, gotta burn it down.
Alright, here we are, folks.
Can't be afraid to live this out. We got this far, don't know how. I see danger in your eyes. They know we'll burn down the night. Coming just like the sunrise. You know that we gonna let it rain. Tonight we gonna let it rain. Tonight we gonna let it rain. Just like the sunrise, we gonna let it rain.
Welcome back once again. This is Chris Report, and he assured me that St. Simon's down in Boulders. Folks, this is Chris Wyatt reporting from South Africa. Well, I had to adjust that very quickly. Quick on-the-fly adjustment right there, folks. The software got updated. I remembered yesterday from my Rugby Ascendant broadcast that my microphone was not working, so I would appreciate if anyone in the audience could tell me if you can hear me right now. That would be very helpful. It does appear that it is functioning here, but who knows? Who knows? Never know with these things, so just give me a heads up if you're hearing it. Let me check on my other microphone while I'm at it. The other one is, yeah, that other one's also wrong. Wow. So you should be able to hear me now. Both are reset. Okay, you can hear me. Thank you very much. Hey, Courtney, how's it going? Welcome back to the program, folks. Lots of breaking news from around the world, from South Africa, from Iran, and the border with Azerbaijan, where the Iranian president's helicopter has gone down in fog, apparently. No update on that situation. We'll cover that story as the program progresses. Oh, my goodness. New shirt. I didn't even take the label off. Look at this. Got the size label on there. Bought this shirt the other day. Anyway, so it's this U.S. Army War College t-shirt. There you go. Established in 1901 by Elihu Root, Secretary of War at the time. We used to have a Department of War, but we have Department of Defense now. Welcome back to the program, folks. As I said, breaking news out of Iran, where the Iranian president's helicopter has reportedly gone down in heavy fog near the border with Azerbaijan. That's the story. We don't know the cause, if it's engine failure, if it's rebel activity, if it's a coup. Who knows what's going on? Meanwhile, in the Democratic Republic of Congo, overnight, a coup attempt that took place today. It's been put down reportedly. And according to authorities in Kinshasa, it involves people who are carrying U.S. passports. Now, of course, this doesn't mean they're Americans. Any fool can come to this country and become a citizen under our corrupt regime. So we get blamed for all kinds of machinations that have nothing to do with Americans. But a coup in the Congo reportedly has failed. The Iranian president's helicopter is down. And Devin Hofmeyr, the member of the Bitter Enders, he has been suspended by the United Independent Movement, a party he joined recently, and was their youth leader. He's been suspended from all activities, purportedly for attending an event with Jacob Zuma, MK Party, and his friend, the diamond dealer, Louis Liebenberg. There is an investigation underway by the UIM at the moment. I posted a video on this a short while ago with comments from the party leader, Neil de Beer, and the information we have publicly available on what's happening in that event. For a reminder to folks, the reason I'm covering that story is not only is it breaking news, but Devin Hofmeyr was supposed to be a guest on this program this week, and it didn't materialize. He hasn't read my last message, and now perhaps I understand why. Nothing to do with me. Events unfolding in the UIM related to him. Jan Filion is here at the beginning. Val Cooper. Apologies for the late start, folks, but I did have to finish editing and posting that video about Devin Hofmeyr, which I was in the process of doing. Chris Ehlers is here. George Steinberg in from Hackport. And Hester Kotz is here. Welcome to you. Donga crawls. Charles Van Onselen, the voice of reason. And that was all before we started because I was a late start. And once again, my timestamps are off. Really annoying when the software does this. All right, Laudine Monday is in from Howick. Hey, Laudine, how's it going? Charles is talking about his military experience in South African Defense Force, along with Chris. And then whom else we got here? Ken Aaronson's here. All right. Second intake, 1963. Ooh, good Lord. Good googly goo. 1963, I was not even born. You're making me feel young. Wow. Making me feel young. Thank you very much for that one. Teresa's here. And then Skalk Jan Dreya, welcome. Thank you for being able to let me know you heard me. Appreciate that. And then who else we got here? Always nice to see new names there. John Jarvis is back. Hey, John. Hendrik Perkins. Henny Perkins. Good evening from Sanin in Limpopo. Hey, Hendrik. I don't know that we have a lot of viewers up in Limpopo, so it's good to have you join us tonight. I hope you're well. Yep, skilled in speech, Skalk van Dreyer. 49-cent message over. Huh? You using, or is that call signs? Lima Charlie Delta. This is Sierra Foxtrot Sierra. YouTube is, what's going on with YouTube? You're having a lot of trouble with your internet connection here, Charles. You keep talking about buffering a lot of times when other people aren't having the issues, so I can only presume that it's something to do with your internet connection. You might want to check into that connection and see who your provider is and check your connection periodically, because I think that might be part of the problem. Okay. All right. Well, folks, lots to talk about. I've just hit on the highlights of the breaking news for today. Be sure after this video is over, if you haven't done already, go check out that video that I posted about Devin Hofmeyer being suspended from the UIM. Bit of a shocker to me. Devin made a big splash when he joined the party recently, and this came on the heels of the legal situation over when he was harassed and arrested by authorities over at a recent event. And so after that, he joined the party with big fanfare. And a bit shocking to hear what happened here, but I'm not sure what the issue is, but we're trying to do it. Charles says, only when I'm watching your live stream. Well, then maybe YouTube just has it in for me. We've talked about that before. And Chris says the Eastern Transvaal is the most beautiful region of the country. Some people say the Eastern Cape is the most beautiful region. I have no idea. Fighting Kitchen says, hi, Chris, always good to listen to you. A great amount of people voting overseas. Yes, I'm waiting to see the vote total. Up to 78,000. I would be surprised if any people actually vote, but anything over 40,000 would be impressive overseas. It won't have an impact except maybe in local elections, depending on where those people vote at. But the odds are they come from two major provinces, primarily from Gauteng and the Western Cape. So potentially they could affect things there. We'll see. But it's not a lot of votes. We're talking about probably 18 million people are going to vote in this election. Even though 43 million South Africans are eligible to vote, only 27 million are registered, and only about 18 million will bother to show up at the polls. Of course, the media is doing their best to portray the ANC as recovering from its recent malaise, saying that every day they're ticking up, and they're going to get to 50%. Well, is that wishful thinking by a corrupt media that doesn't want any change in the slow strangulation and death of South Africa's economy and its population? Possibly. Or is it simply news reporting? Or it could be a mix of the two. I think it's probably a mix of the two. 80,000 in London. No, that's not correct, Ken. There weren't that many ballots. According to Durko, they put 78,000 ballots in London. That's how many were sent there. That's not how many voted necessarily. Can you imagine how much money you have to waste to drive all the way to London? Of course, you can't drive into the town. You'll be hit with a congestion tax, which will cost you a fortune, and you'll never receive the bill from the crooked authorities in London, who will keep the bill from you and then mail it to you saying that you failed to pay it on time and hit you with a additional charge, especially if you hire a car. What a corrupt system that is by corrupt leftist fascists. But hey, they are the people running the world, so we have to deal with them. There you go. Garrett says 75,000 voting in all countries, 24,000 in London. That, I believe, is a more accurate figure, Garrett. Yep, but we'll have to wait and see. The Transvaal was hijacked by criminals and jailbirds. Well, the entire country was. I was experiencing quite a bit of buffering Chris's live streams. I'm sorry to hear that, Derek. Anyone who's experiencing buffering on my live streams, what I propose that you do is you pause the video. Wait 60 seconds. Time it. Hit the play button. And then what will happen is if the data is breaking up and buffering, it'll come in and it gives it a buffering window so that you get a continuous stream. You'll be a minute behind the broadcast, but at least you won't have to deal with buffering. It's a lot less frustrating. Yeah, no, it's Patrick, exactly right. It's such a corrupt system. You can only vote in London, in the UK. If you're in Australia, you can only go to Canberra. What if you live in Tasmania? What if you live in Perth? Who's going to fly to Canberra to vote? Yeah, it's wrong. It's wrong. Well, scientists, many people do have the buffering, unfortunately. All right, let's get to the news, and we'll cover that. By the way, the opening music was, of course, Giselle with Pleka in de Zon. That video filmed in Namibia and South Africa. So, yes. All right, so let's get on with it. The Independent Electoral Commission has said that voting has gone smoothly abroad. That is their claim. Oops, that is not what I wanted. Wrong window. I got to move those things, folks. They're too close to each other. In fact, let me do that right now so that doesn't happen on a regular basis. Okay, there we go. And Courtney just gave a super chat. Oranje could be the capital of Volksstad. Highly unlikely. Thank you for the super chat. Appreciate that as we try to keep a little bit of revenue coming into the channel, pay for at least the internet. Certainly not for my travel, but for the internet. But that's highly unlikely, Courtney. Highly unlikely. So the Independent Electoral Commission says voting abroad went off without a hitch. 24,000 registered voters in London. Yeah. So we'll see how many actually showed up. But there were long lines. I saw the video. You can see the long lines there in Dublin. That's in Dublin. They're having a pint of Guinness while they're waiting to vote in the South African elections. And look at that. It's mostly white folks. Look at that. Mostly white folks in Ireland. Yeah, they're coming out for a crock and having a bit of a Guinness beer. And they're mostly white. Yeah. That must mean they're racist. At this stage, any reports on voter turnout should be treated as unconfirmed. Analysis of the reports would be speculative. The ballots may only be counted after the close of voting stations in the country on May 29th. Only then can the IEC communicate definitively on a turnout for the election. Exactly. The IEC made arrangements for 78,000 South Africans to vote abroad. That's the entire world. That's out of a lot of South Africans. There are, in addition, 1.7 million special ballots. 653,000 of them include special home visits. Over 1 million are for voting station special votes. And in all, there's at least a single approved special vote in 22,626 of the 23,000 network of voting stations. Yep. So we don't know the numbers, just speculation. Yeah, scientists overseas votes will not impact. Yeah. Never saw voting booths in Los Angeles for the Mexican population. Well, Jorge Ramos manages to vote in Mexican elections. The scumbag Jorge Ramos, who's disappeared from the screen, his advocacy for criminal alien invasion of America and his illicit voting in the United States and in Mexico, fraudulently holding what he calls dual citizenship. Jorge Ramos. Yeah. Well, South Africa has slipped and become one of the least lucrative, promising investment destinations for mining capital. Well, I've told you this over and over again, folks. The depth of gold now, the cost, the expense of digging out, BEE corruption, the collapsed infrastructure, the unproductive workforce, the criminality, the cost of security, all these factors make South Africa a very, very undesirable destination for mining capital. South Africa is slipping to among least favored mining jurisdictions. They are 64th out of 86 places listed. South Africa slipped on the authoritative global index that assesses mining jurisdictions based on their attractiveness as investment destinations. While BHP Billiton battles for Anglo-American minus the South African assets, South Africa has slipped another 11 spots. Well, now they're really down. South Africa has dropped to 64th. It's 11 positions lower than it was 2 years ago, when they only looked at 62 2 years ago. The survey only looked at 62 destinations for mining capital. So South Africa couldn't even have fallen that far. Now it's fallen 11 places to 64th because they've added some destinations. It's so sad. Comments from mining bosses highlighted the concerns about the delay in implementation of a modern cadastre, a publicly available online map and a repository of the country's mineral resources. Yep, one of the respondents, a president of an exploration company valued at $50 million, said the lack of transparency in permits was a deterrent to investment in South Africa. Another executive said local community engagement preferential procurement requirements lack clarity due to the absence of definitive cadastral system delineating the extent, location, and area of influence of various communities. In other words, how much can local communities shake you down, the racist, black supremacists shake you down for your capital? It's unclear, so companies don't want to come to South Africa. Yep. There you have it, folks. Survey found that Niger and West Africa was the least attractive mining jurisdiction. So, hey, congratulations, South Africa. You did defeat Niger, where an armed insurgency has been underway and a military junta illegitimately overthrew a democratically elected government last year. But hey, you're ahead of Niger. China, the Solomon Islands, and Argentina are also poor locations. 4 of the 10 least attractive mining destinations, Niger, Mozambique, Zimbabwe, the DRC, are in Africa. The other countries, of course, are Argentina, China, India, the Philippines, Mongolia, and Colombia. Wow, folks, that's something else. The most attractive mining destination in the world, according to mining companies, Utah, and then Nevada in the United States. Yeah, look at that. Look at that. Ooh, we came out well. Ramaphosa says he's open to discussions about the National Health Insurance Initiative, which he just signed into law. Wow. Cyril trying to placate moderate black and white voters to vote and hoodwink for his party. Of course, he'll lie and he won't do anything. Remember, Cyril Ramaphosa promised to bring $100 billion of foreign direct investment to South Africa. Yeah, the investment in Daba, not happening. Didn't happen. He promised to crack down on state capture and prosecute criminals. Nobody's been prosecuted. Let's see. He promised a new day in South Africa. Hasn't happened. What have we got instead under Cyril Ramaphosa? Worse theft in the history of South Africa, worse than the state capture era. More money stolen under state capture under Ramaphosa's regime than ever was taken under Zuma's regime. The COVID scam, the arrest and criminal record for hundreds of thousands of South Africans was simply following the law, but violating illegal, unconstitutional lockdown legislation. The constant screaming and whining about vaccine apartheid, and now we're hearing all kinds of climate apartheid, and the abandonment of the coal mining sector to the hands of gangsters, and the collapse of Eskom, SAA, Transnet, roads, bridges, rails, criminal gangs running wild, gender-based violence off the charts, 90 murders per day. This is what Cyril Ramaphosa has brought to South Africa. But hey, he wants to talk about national health insurance. Yeah, sure. Let's have a conversation, Cyril. Yeah, in a new twist, Ramaphosa extends olive branch to blindsided businesses. President Ramaphosa, also known as Munir Palapala, signing of the national health insurance legislation, blindsided top business figures who were shocked by the move and its timing less than 2 weeks before the elections. Representatives of big business who have close ties with the president, said they were under the impression that Ramaphosa would not sign the bill until after their concerns had been met. Well, he lied. He lied. And that comes as a surprise to the white monopoly capitalist. Bell Pottinger's term, not mine. That comes as a surprise to the titans of South Africa's monopolies and oligarchies in the banking, retail sector, and the hospitality sector. That comes as a surprise to you. It shouldn't. It shouldn't. Cyril Ramaphosa is a pathological liar. It shouldn't come as a surprise to anyone. Yeah. Well, the city press runs a story saying the panic-stricken DA is fiercely fighting to retain its crown jewel, the Western Cape. Make no mistake, folks. Other parties are making inroads into the DA's voting base, not the least of which is the Patriotic Alliance and, of course, the Referendum Party potentially making inroads. But we don't know what's going on. Courtney with another super chat. I oppose the copper pit in Utah, and I'm all for it. Reminds me of the Big Bang Theory when Sheldon asked Leonard a question. He said, do you know what this theory is? And Leonard answered. He says, of course you don't know. Of course you know. I just told you. He says, so what's your position? And Leonard asked Sheldon, what's your position? Well, I'm in favor of it. He said, I oppose it. I believe on the seventh day God created you to annoy me. $1.99. Thank you for the super chat. You oppose the copper pit mine in Utah. Well, I'm glad that you like people living in poverty in the Stone Age. Oh, my goodness. A panic-stricken DA. Really? Panic-stricken? Is the DA really panic-stricken? Well, the Democratic Alliance is losing support in some places, but it's gaining in other places like KwaZulu-Natal and Gauteng, but it is losing. And Sharon Fundamented just got a membership. Look at that from Jan Filionen. And Sharon, I don't recall seeing her here. Congratulations, Sharon, for that membership. Yes, let's take a look at this story from City Press, and I'll talk about it. Sharon, congratulations on your membership. For those who don't know, as a retired colonel, it's rare that I salute someone. Oftentimes, most times, I'm returning a salute because most people are junior to me in my rank. So it's a rare opportunity to salute someone and thank them for their patronage. Thank you, Sharon. And thank you, Jan, for paying for it. A panic-stricken DA is fiercely fighting to retain. Look at this. If you vote PA, you get the ANC and EFF. Now, let me ask you a question, folks. How is that panic? Is that not a true statement? Did Gate McKenzie not make the following statement recently? I'm not finished with the ANC yet. People think I'm finished with the ANC. No, between the PA, the ANC, and another party, we will be able to form a government. Is that not? Well, Courtney, no one picks who gives memberships. YouTube does that. It's up to YouTube. So is that not simply a statement of fact? How is that desperation? Again, not defending the Democratic Alliance. I don't do that. But defending the truth here. This is a bit of a panic-stricken article, to say the least. Don't let the Patriotic Alliance sell you out to the ANC, coalition of corruption that will destroy South Africa. Well, there you go. There's a poster from the DA. But the City Press says the panic-stricken DA is fiercely fighting to retain its crown jewel, the Western Cape. They've governed since 2009, and they got 55% vote in 2019. The ANC's last hope. That's a nice poster, the Patriotic Alliance. The implication being there that the ANC can't be in government without the Patriotic Alliance as an alliance partner. Well, that might very well be the truth, folks. That could very well be the truth. The way things are going, if the ANC has indeed actually climbed back up to 45%, maybe 48%, Gate McKenzie would need only 2% to become an ally of the African National Congress, whom he said he's happy to do alliances with. Wow, look what they did to Knysna. Now it's a sewage pit. What a beautiful location for millions of years destroyed by an ANC-PA coalition. Police ramp up security measures amid truckers' planned national shutdown tomorrow. Truckers are planning on shutting down routes all over the country, and police are having none of it, or so they say. The All Truck Drivers Forum and the Allied South Africa plan to embark on a national shutdown. The lawlessness will not be tolerated, according to the police. We reiterate our stance: no lawlessness of any form of criminality will be tolerated. What a fascinating comment. What an absolutely fascinating comment. There's a reason you haven't seen any posters in Somerset West, Garrett. It's because the Democratic Alliance assumes they're going to get the votes there, and they're probably right. So put your resources elsewhere. I mean, the total amount of money that's been donated in the past quarter to political parties in South Africa, frankly, from an American perspective, a Brit perspective, a German perspective, is a joke. 172 million rand. 172 million rand. $10 million would be 190 million rand. So all these parties got a total of $9 million. Good Lord. Josh Shapiro spent $53 million to defeat my former colleague, Doug Mastriano, as governor of Pennsylvania. One little state in this country. So, yeah, I'm not surprised you're not seeing posters. There's no money for it. The media is running around like the South African political parties have got a fortune. They don't have a fortune. Do you think those signs are that much cheaper than what mine cost? Do you think airtime is much cheaper? Well, it is in South Africa, that's for sure. But there's still a high cost of doing things. And there's simply not enough money to put stuff everywhere. So, we reiterate our stance that no lawlessness of any form of criminality will be tolerated. Well, why can't you do that everywhere? Why can't you catch bank robbers, cash in transit robbers? Why can't you stop home invasions, farm murders? Why can't you serve as a preventative police force rather than a reactive police force, which doesn't even react? I think that's a good question. The Democratic Alliance has failed the Western Cape, so says Rise Mzansi. Yep. They have a plan to bridge divides, says their candidate. The Democratic Alliance has failed the majority of people in the Western Cape, says Rise Mzansi's premier candidate for the political party, Axoli Notwale. Speaking at the Rise Mzansi People's Rally in Rudaport, in Gauteng, even though he's talking about the Western Cape, he said the party had a plan to make the Western Cape safe, prosperous, equal, and united. The Democratic Alliance, which is the governing party, has failed the majority of us. The failure of the DA in the Western Cape can also be attributed to the dismal failures of the ANC as an opposition party in the province. The ANC is a party that is plagued by factionalism and infighting because all of them are thinking about their own interest and not about the needs of the people marginalized and neglected by the DA in the Western Cape. Wow. Again, this whole story about people marginalized by the DA. Would somebody offer any evidence whatsoever to substantiate this horse manure claim that people are marginalized? Who is marginalized by the Democratic Alliance? People may be neglected, but that's very different than marginalized. Marginalized is an action taken by someone to intentionally sideline them. Show me the evidence. You know, Jerry Maguire, show me the money. Cuba Gooding Jr., show me the money. Show me the evidence. Stop the sensationalism. If you want to criticize a political party for its failures, do so like I do for the ANC every day. And I frequently do for the DA. But state facts, not supposition, hyperbole, or useless opinion. Marginalized? How have they been marginalized, Rise Mzansi? Tell me, what action did the DA take to intentionally marginalize any group of people or persons in the Western Cape illegitimately? And he won't be able to show any because there is no evidence of that. After we fix the ANC, we'll go back and vote for it. At his long-delayed election manifesto launch in Orlando, former President Jacob Zuma's MK party said, hey, we are going to achieve a 2/3 majority. The African National Congress probably is laughing now too, not as hard as I am, but the Mkhonto weSizwe party claims it will achieve a 2/3 majority still. After the recent implosion of Jabulani Kumalo and Jacob Zuma arguing with each other, going to court, all the court cases, the fact that Jacob Zuma's not even eligible on the ballot, they still claim they're going to get 2/3 majority. And after they get their 2/3 majority, which is something that's only ever been achieved once in post-1994 South Africa, that was by the ANC back in 2004 when they got 69%. No party has ever achieved it other than that one time. Now, he says... He says that, where does he say that? He says they're going to go back. Here he is. He says, I also believe that after we have confirmed that the real ANC was back by pushing them out of government, all of us would go back and vote for it. So he's saying that MK is just a vessel to get rid of the ANC so we can take over the ANC. This is the radical economic transformation faction on steroids. Well, we're going to reverse a lot of things, says Dudu Head. Dudu Head, that's right. Dudu Head, Dudu Zili Zuma at a packed, not quite so packed, but a full manifesto launch in Soweto. The Orlando Stadium in Soweto was packed with supporters on Saturday ahead of the Mkhonto weSizwe manifesto launch weeks late. The former president's daughter, Dudu Head Zuma Sambudla, rumored to be in line for a top position in the party, spoke to media attention ahead of the manifesto launch in Orlando. Asked what the MK party had to offer the people of South Africa ahead of the election, she said, the people are going to give us a mandate, so whatever they want, we're going to make sure we deliver it. When it comes to land, jobs, everything. Well, hey, I want land. Can I have some land? I'd like a better paying job than what I got now. I mean, the super chats are few and far between. Courtney has just sustained me for a couple minutes here with a couple of super chats, but I want money too. I want a job. I want land. You going to listen to me, doo-doo head? Yes. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, the following is a grammar lesson for Duduzile Suma Sambudla. Duduzile Zuma Sambudla. Please listen closely. The word to greet people in isiZulu is sawubona, which literally means I see you. And that is today's isiZulu lesson for the daughter of Jacob Zuma. Being schooled in Zulu by an American. How embarrassing. Maybe you should go do some more tweets to encourage people for your insurrection. Well, the media is doing the best job they can to convince people that the ANC is going to be at 50%. Is this an underhanded effort to convince people not to go to the polls? To go to the polls? Or simply reporting the news? You decide. Polls show ANC may come close to 50% on low voter turnout. University of Johannesburg now putting out another poll saying that they are moving forward. 77% of South Africans who still trust Ramaphosa are most likely to vote for the ANC. Well, that's a bit disturbing. If 23% of the people who trust Ramaphosa aren't going to vote for the ANC, that's scary. I mean, honestly, if you look at the Trump crowd, he's got a lot of people that trust him and are going to vote for him. There's nobody that trusts Donald Trump who's not going to vote for him. There's a lot of people who don't trust him are going to vote for him. That's a different story. But if 77% of your supporters who trust you are going to vote for you, that's a loss, not a victory. Hey, Debbie Ells is here. Wow, it's been donkey years, Debbie. How's it going? I think I saw a tweet from you yesterday or something like that. John Dawes says, good to listen to your channel. Warnings being put out for tax and SAP stationary elections, theft of guns. Yeah, well, why don't they just borrow them from SAPs? That's how they usually do it. Don't whinge. Simply compete. So says Fly Saf Air. And I have to say that I agree 100%.
That was easy.
That's right. The whining from the other South African air companies complaining, aviation companies complaining that Saf Air has foreign ownership. Hey, it runs, it's profitable, it's effective, it's on time, it provides affordable, although more costly than before COVID, seats. And I have flown on Fly Saf Air a dozen times in the past 18 months, and I found it to be incredibly reliable, effective, efficient, and mostly affordable. So sour grapes from the opponents, from the competitors. Unlike South African Airways, it's not subsidized by Uncle Sugar Ramaphosa. Kirby Gordon, Chief Marketing Officer for the leading low-cost carrier Fly Saf Air, says instead of trying to ground the airline for allegedly breaking the law on foreign ownership, their rivals should just up their game. They should belly up to the bar. They should man up. They should man up. We don't believe that foreign ownership confers any particular competitive advantage, he says, adding that their ownership is in full compliance with the law. Any airline can include 25% foreign shareholders, as Fly Saf Air has done. And he can't see how that really gives them an advantage. And I agree. Unless they were losing money and they would get money poured in from abroad to keep them afloat, that would be a different story. But Fly Saf Air turns a profit. Why? By filling its planes, by arriving on time, by ensuring your bags actually get back to, wait for this, get this. Are you listening, South African Airways? Ensuring that when you fly with Saf Air, your bags arrive with you. Every time I go out, they appear on the belt. Never been rifled through, never been stolen. Unlike with South African Airways at OR Tambo before the 2011 FIFA World Cup. Oh my goodness. I think 25 to 40% of the bags were either missing a rifle through or never showed up back in the day at OR Tambo. South African Airways. Who are your baggage handlers? Remember, they fired a bunch of them. They were criminals with no real serious background check. 3 people reportedly killed in the attempted coup in the Democratic Republic of Congo. The military says the coup was nipped in the bud by forces and the perpetrators were arrested, including foreigners. 2 police officers and one of the attackers were among those killed in the shootout. The armed men attacked the Kinshasa residence of Vitala Kamara, a federal legislator and candidate for Speaker of the National Assembly, but were stopped by his guards. The army said the group of people behind the attempted coup were mostly foreigners or Congolese citizens based abroad. Al Jazeera's Alain Uikani reported. Uikani added the army also said that the suspects, some of them held U.S. and Canadian passports. Aha! Aha! It's the CIA, not. Arctic is laughing because I'm saying the baggage handlers, I'm blaming the airlines. Yes, I'm aware that the airlines don't employ them. Airports Company South Africa, a parastatal under the control of the ANC, like South African Airways, a parastatal under the control of the ANC. And oh, by the way, those bags didn't just disappear from SAA. They also disappeared from Delta, from British Air, from KLM, from Lufthansa, from Air France. Yes, Airports Company South Africa, another government-owned entity. That was my point. I guess it was too subtle. Fringe U.S. businessman. Well, he's not a U.S. businessman. He's a DRC politician. Killed in foiled attempt. Christian Malanga apparently died in the battle leading the foiled coup. A fringe Congolese politician and his United States business partner in mining and cannabis ventures in the DRC and Mozambique apparently led a foiled coup. Christian Malanga, a 41-year-old leader of the U.S.-based United Congolese Party, was killed as his band of 20 armed men reportedly tried to force entry into the Palais de la Nation, the official residence of President Felix Tshisekedi. So that would argue that this coup attempt took place at more than one location simultaneously in Kinshasa. The leader of the coup purportedly attacking the presidential palace, while another portion went to a different a legislator's house. Well, turning our attention to the United Rugby Championship, what a day yesterday, folks. If you missed it, if you missed coverage on Rugby Ascendant, oh my goodness, I encourage you to go back, fast forward to the second half of the Lions game. Oh, man, what an unbelievable comeback. The Lions beat Glasgow in an improbable game, and you can listen to my reaction to it. Just, can you believe it? Can you believe it? I said over and over again. What an incredible finish. Yesterday, the Bulls got their business done, but once again, they collapsed and allowed their opponent to get a bonus point that they should not have gotten. And they screwed the Lions, who really could have been benefiting if Benetton hadn't picked up a bonus point. But Benetton picks a bonus point because of the porous Bulls defense, something that should terrify Bulls fans for the upcoming playoff round, because their defense is about as effective as putting Tawnies out there on the pitch to defend. The Bulls build a big lead and give up a lot of points they shouldn't give up once again. So people look at the final score and go, wow, the Bulls, impressive offense, nine tries. But they gave up 4 tries to a Benetton team that struggled to win a game last week without a bonus point against the lowly Sharks. 13th on the log, 4 wins out of 17 games, and they barely beat the Sharks. Yet, Benetton scored 4 tries on the Bulls, at Loftus, no less. So that bonus point hurt the Lions, who could have benefited by that not happening. Benetton would have moved out of playoff consideration. So the Bulls get the business done for themselves, but screw the Lions. The Lions get the business done for themselves, get a bonus point victory, an incredible victory over Glasgow, holding Glasgow down to 3rd position and helping the Bulls. The Bulls are now in 2nd position, a better playoff position than they would have been had the Lions not won the game with a bonus point. Well, the Lions got it done for the Bulls, but the Bulls stabbed the Lions in the back by allowing Benetton to get 4 tries. And then the Stormers, in a boring but a victory nonetheless, the first ever Stormers victory on Irish soil, beating in Galway, Connacht, 16-12. They won that game. And then finally, the game that I wasn't going to cover, the game at the end of the day, which was, of course, Ulster hosting Leinster. Ulster won the game. What an incredible job. What an incredible job. The Airports Company South Africa CEO is the wife of Dali Mpofu. Do I need to say more? John Cooney, wow, steals a victory for Ulster at home in what the coach terms the greatest victory in his tenure. John Cooney seals thrilling Ulster win over Leinster to secure the URC playoff spot. Wow. 79th minute penalty roared over a capacity crowd in Belfast in the final home game of the season. The loudest and most tremendous deep-throated guttural roar of the season at Kingspan was reserved for the full-time whistle at the climactic end of Ulster's last home game of the season. John Cooney's 79th minute penalty having edged them in front. The capacity crowd chanted down the clock in tandem with their team running it down before Nathan Doak kicked the ball dead. Wow. At the end of a rip-roaring, pulsating derby, which ebbed, flowed, and throbbed all night long, this thrilling 23-21 victory was rare. Ulster double over Leinster as it backed up their 22-21 win at RDS Arena back in January, so they beat Leinster twice this year. Wow. As I reported at the beginning of this broadcast, the Iranian president's helicopter went down near the border of Azerbaijan in an incident. And we're waiting for updates. Helicopter carrying Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi was involved in an incident while visiting the northern region, and his condition is currently unknown. Aircraft had a hard landing in East Azerbaijan province, and emergency crews have been unable to reach it due to foggy conditions. It's unclear the status of his helicopter. Some of the president's companions on this helicopter were able to communicate with central headquarters, raising hopes the incident could have ended without casualties. Helicopter is part of a convoy of 3 helicopters. 2 of these helicopters carrying ministers and officials arrived at their destination safely, but the president's did not. Iranian president, currently unknown his status. Elon Musk and the Indonesian health minister launched Starlink for the Indonesian health sector. Elon Musk and Indonesian health minister Budi Gunadi Sadikin launched SpaceX's satellite internet service for the nation's health sector today, aiming to improve access to remote parts of the sprawling archipelago. Musk, wearing a green batik shirt, said the availability of Starlink service in Indonesia would help millions in far-flung parts of the country to access the internet. The country is home to more than 270 million people and 3 different time zones. And it is, of course, the largest Muslim country in the world, not an Arab country. China is sloughing off and getting rid of U.S. treasuries and reducing its hold. China is likely to continue to reduce the share of U.S. debt as it overhaul foreign exchange reserves as it revamps them in an effort to diversify foreign asset portfolios and reduce risk exposure. This came as data from U.S. Treasury showed that China, the second biggest foreign holder of U.S. Treasury securities, cut its holdings for 3 consecutive months to $767 billion, down $7.6 billion from a month prior. Since April of 2022, China's holding of U.S. Treasury bonds has remained below $1 trillion. The recent cut marked a new low for China's holdings, as such assets have not been seen since March of 2009. And it comes as Japan, the largest holder of foreign U.S. debt, increased its holdings by $19.9 billion in March to $1.19 trillion. How many times have I told you China is not the largest holder of our foreign debt, Many times. I told you they're number 2. At one time, briefly, they were. They surpassed China, but that is long since passed. Or surpassed Japan, excuse me. Georgia's president has vetoed the foreign agents law. It's triggered protests and threatens to derail the nation's pro-European aspirations in favor of closer ties of Russia. President Salome Zurabachvili of Georgia said that she had vetoed a bill on foreign influence that has sparked protest. Georgia's parliament passed the draft law in 3 readings. The ruling Georgian Dream Party introduced the proposed legislation can turn into law as early as May 28th when the parliament will be in session. She called her veto symbolic. I guess it's going to be part of the law after all. Vladimir Putin's puppet says that NATO capitals will be ours. Russia threatens Helsinki and Warsaw. Vladimir Solovyov, close ally of Russian President Putin, made the chilling comments on Russian TV as tensions between Moscow and NATO skyrocketed. Vladimir Solovyov, a mouthpiece for Putin, made the alarming statement in a television program, Evening with Vladimir Solovyov. He asserted that not only is Kiev Russian territory, but so too are Warsaw and Helsinki. Kiev is the mother of Russian cities. Take the old lady back to her motherland. Ukraino-Nazis came here. I think that in another 5 minutes, Warsaw and Helsinki will also be ours. He slammed Secretary of State Antony Blinken's visit to the Ukraine. He said that Blinken said that they could not use their weapons to hit Russian territory that we gave to Ukraine. But he said, it's not allowed to hit Russian territory. And what territory do you hit, you idiots? It's all Russia. Ooh, it's on like Donkey Kong. Well, folks, the Slovak prime minister is improving after a second operation. The suspect who shot him appeared before a judge who ordered him to remain in custody until he's charged and tried. Slovakia's Prime Minister Robert Fico improving health yesterday. The country's deputy minister said after having a second surgery on the wounds he sustained when he was shot. Several miracles happened. He's conscious with all the limitations of his serious injury. Wow. Shot multiple times. And they have to explain why they're keeping the assassin in custody. Anthony O'Reilly, the famed Irish rugby player, businessman, successful billionaire from Ireland, and bankrupt Irishman, has passed away at the age of 88 after a short illness. Tony O'Reilly, of course, famously led Heinz during a turbulent period from the 1980s to 1990s, and is one of the reasons why America's treasured Heinz brand was sold off to Brazilian interest, betraying Americans. But of course, he was Irish, so why would he give a flying flip about us? Tony O'Reilly, our obituary, Ireland's first business superstar whose spectacular fall led to bankruptcy. The golden boy of Irish commerce made his name as a rugby star before Heinz and independent news and media brought him wealth and power beyond any contemporary. And there's Tony O'Reilly. In his final public appearance, after decades of business acclaim and vast wealth came to an abrupt halt in bankruptcy, Sir Anthony O'Reilly spoke about success and failure. You win and you lose, and if you don't know how to lose, you don't know how to live, he told a double audience. Those were salutary words. O'Reilly, who died at the age of 88 in Dublin, was very often a spectacular winner, a compelling raconteur with easy charm. He had a glittering career that often seemed epic in its scale. But by the end of it all, he was broke and bankrupt. It was a drastic fall. Yep, his credit ran out in 2015, and he went bankrupt. He was at Heinz, the ketchup and baked beans empire, for a long time. As a major media owner and influential business leader, O'Reilly wielded immense clout and kept company with the rich, the famous, and the powerful. But his long and lucrative tenure at the helm of independent news and media ended on his 73rd birthday when he was ousted after a disastrous corporate feud with Dennis O'Brien. He was the winner when he and O'Brien clashed again in 2001 in the takeover battle for Earcom. Yes. So it went on and on and on. There he is. Media giant. 88 years of age. He owned homes all over the world and spent money like there was nobody's business. He was a wasteful spender, and it led to his bankruptcy. Hey, what happens if you deport criminal alien invaders and kick them out of your country? Does anybody know what happens? Well, you rise in the polls and you get reelected. Check it out. In neighboring Dominican Republic, on the same island of the same island as Haiti, President Luis Abinader goes into the race today as a clear frontrunner, bolstered by migration policies, a strong economy, and anti-corruption drive. The Dominican Republic is deporting tens of thousands of Haitians despite pleas from the United Nations to stop as they flee gang-fueled lawlessness. The Dominican President Luis Abinader is going even further, building a border wall between the two countries that share the Caribbean island of Hispaniola. There you go. There you go. So, if you're the Dominican president and you speak Spanish and you kick out black Creole-speaking Haitians, apparently you're not a racist. Apparently it's perfectly okay, and you get reelected. But if you're an American president and you want to keep out the entire world flooding our borders, regardless of their skin color, it makes you a racist. Spare me. Joe Biden will deliver a speech at Morehouse College, a historically black college, Morehouse College, and all male, part of the patriarchy, the black supremacist patriarchy. Not. Biden will deliver Morehouse commencement address during a time of tumult on U.S. college campuses. Joe Biden is delivering a commencement address at Morehouse today, a key opportunity in election year appearance before a black audience, but one that also could directly expose him to the anger that some of these and other students across the country have been expressing over his staunch support for Israel and its war. Joe Biden supporting the patriarchy of black supremacy. Not. Ladies and gentlemen, the demonic attack on Americans and our energy security continues unabated as the corrupt Biden regime shuts down leases in the Powder River Basin, the location where half of the country's coal is dug up. We are being pushed into energy poverty and serfdom by a corrupt religious cult of climate zealots, led by the Democrats. The U.S. Bureau of Land Management's decision to end future coal leasing in the region is likely to be challenged. Arch Resources Black Thunder mine in the Powder River Basin, where you can see them digging up coal right there. In a historic move, the U.S. Bureau of Land Management has proposed ending federal coal leasing in the Powder River Basin. The region extends from northeast Wyoming to southern Montana as the nation's largest coal supplier and for 50 years a pillar of Wyoming's economy. The federal agency on Thursday issued its final supplemental environmental impact statement and proposed amendment to its Buffalo Field Office land use plan, selecting a no future coal leasing alternative. Mining companies can still develop their existing leases, which would allow for the region's rate of production to continue through 2041. Wow. Unbelievable. The war on energy. This will kill jobs, cost Wyoming hundreds of millions of dollars used to pay for public schools, roads, and other essential services, said Senator John Barrasso. Cutting off access to our strongest resources surrenders America's greatest economic advantages to continue producing affordable, abundant, reliable American energy. They don't want affordable, reliant, abundant American energy. What they want is suffering, hungering, starving, poor Americans who are dependent on the state. And then they will vote for the party in power into perpetuity. A Democratic town of racists and xenophobes is upset that migrants are being put in their midst. Migrants are there. We don't want it here, but it doesn't make us bad people, says one Norfolk, Massachusetts resident. But when we say it, we are racist. Residents of New England town are fuming that they have not been consulted on plans to convert a former state prison into a taxpayer-funded migrant shelter for hundreds of criminal alien invaders. The state is refurbishing Norfolk, Massachusetts Bay State Correctional Center, a former minimum security dorm-like facility to accommodate criminal alien invaders and homeless individuals who are currently holed up at Boston's Logan Airport and are on the wait list for emergency shelter. Norfolk has a population of 11,500 and voted heavily in favor of Joe Biden. Well, that's what you get, morons. That's what you get. In 2020, 4,100 Norfolk residents voted for Biden compared to 2,570 voted for Donald Trump. Well, there you go. Leftist morons. You love being leftists until you are subjected to the machinations of criminal alien invaders who don't look like you, who don't sound like you, who don't practice faith like you, who are just not like you. Bigots, racists. That's what you are. There you go. Well, the Key Bridge. Key Bridge collapse report raises questions with potential legal ramifications. Look at that big gouge out of that ship that ran into the Francis Scott Key Bridge, the Dolly. Look at how much of that hull was just ripped apart from that brief contact. That's crazy. The crew and pilots aboard the massive container ship that destroyed the Francis Scott Key Bridge were not under the influence of alcohol or drugs, nor was the ship running on contaminated fuel. However, these revelations have opened more questions as the motor had failed repeatedly. Why was this thing even underway? It raises red flags that it had prior power outages, said the Baltimore attorney and maritime law professor Charles Simmons. The question is, who was told about these issues? So the National Transportation Safety Board investigation continues, but that's a preliminary report. Well, we've been stuck on this crappy boat for 7 weeks, says the crew. This is what life is like for the Dolly crew. Well, guess what? Too bad, buddy. Too bad. You ran into the ship and destroyed the jewel of the Baltimore harbor. When the Reverend Mark Nesselhutt boarded the Dolly ship a week after it crashed, anxious questions emerged among the 21 crew members. When will I get off the ship? When will I be able to get home? And then the FBI confiscated their phones. Well, there's a reason why these people can't get off the ship. Maritime rules require that the ship be manned continuously. Therefore, the crew cannot leave. You could take on water. There's machinery running. Anytime machinery is running, there's a risk of something failing, causing a fire, something like that. So the United States has minimal requirements for the manning of vessels. By international maritime regulations, there has to be some crew left on the vessel. Yep. Now, this comes from Reverend Nesselhutt, who is the president of the Seamen's Church Institute, which provides help to seamen in distress. They have given them new phones. So even though they've been on the boat for 7 weeks, but they're not going anywhere, folks. They're not going anywhere anytime soon. But that boat will be refloated Monday morning. Get ready for that, folks. Early Monday morning. The Dolly cargo ship is to be refloated Monday morning. The Key Bridge Response Unified Command announced Saturday afternoon. After sitting stuck in the Patapsco River following its March 26 crash, the vessel is scheduled to leave its position at high tide Monday morning at 5:24 in the morning after being prepped for the journey to a local maritime terminal. Wow. The entire process to move the ship is estimated to take 21 hours because it only moved at 1 mile per hour. During those 18 hours, the crew will release anchors and mooring lines currently attached to the ship, deballast some or all of its 1.2 million gallons of water pumped into the ship to compensate for the weight removed from it last Monday, and be inspected for any remaining obstructions that may have been missed by dive survey teams. Once the ship is free, up to 5 tugboats will shuttle it 2.5 miles to a nearby terminal, pushing it at a mile per hour. And clearing the ship is key to reopening the channel. So that is coming very soon. Vermont is negotiating a bill to punish energy companies for pollution that they didn't make, that consumers used. Governor Phil Scott will consider signing Vermont's Climate Superfund Act. In a pioneering measure to hold companies accountable responsible for environmental damage, Vermont is poised to make oil and gas giants shell out billions in climate change cleanup. Vermont's Climate Superfund Act, which parallels the Environmental Protection Agency's Superfund, would mandate high-emission corporations such as ExxonMobil, Shell, and Chevron to be financially accountable for a portion of the cost of extreme weather damage to the state. For decades, fossil fuel corporations have knowingly destroyed our planet for short-term profits, says Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders. Shut up. Shut up. This is a state piece of legislation, Bernie Sanders. You communist, you sit in Washington. You have no role. Shut up. You're not a state senator. You're a senator from the state. And holding these companies responsible, how about consumers? This is going to drive the price of energy up and bankrupt companies. This is a flim-flam scam to rob corporations of money, once again. Well, ladies and gentlemen, without much fanfare, foreign nationals tried to breach security onto a Marine base. Yep. The criminal alien invasion of America is now leading to obvious, blatant attempts to invade military installations. God knows what else they're invading. The pair who tried to breach Virginia Marine Base are Jordanian nationals, Quantico. 2 people whom Marine Corps prevented from breaking into an installation in Virginia on May 3rd were Jordanian nationals, according to U.S. immigration. And what other Jordanian nationals broke into things? Were they on planes on September 11th? Any Jordanian nationals on those planes? The Criminal Investigations Division of the Marine Corps base Quantico arrested the pair for trespassing and notified the Immigration and Customs Enforcement Removal Operations Branch, Washington office. Deportation officers arrested the 2 people whom Covington described as Jordanian non-citizens. Both will remain in custody pending removal proceedings. They'd driven up to a gate at the base in a box truck. When questioned by military sentries, they claimed to be Amazon subcontractors making deliveries to the town of Quantico, and they were allowed onto the base. But then they drove, instead of through the base like they're supposed to, onto the actual military base. The problem with this, of course, Amazon subcontractors use lease vehicles all the time. You see hire vehicles, you see private vans that deliver things for Amazon, and this needs to be addressed. Well, Republicans, just like demon rats, love subsidies, illicit, immoral subsidies for the agricultural sector. A farm bill text released in the U.S. House is setting up a fight with the Senate. The U.S. House Agriculture Committee Friday released a draft bill of a text of a long-awaited $1.5 trillion farm bill, likely to face opposition in the Senate from Democrats due to disagreements over federal anti-hunger programs and climate change requirements. So, mind you, the Democrats don't disagree with government stealing from my pocket to give money to rich farmers to grow sugarcane and corn or maize for ethanol. They don't have an issue with stealing from my pocket for that, or polluting the Mississippi River Basin with massive amounts of phosphates to fertilize cornfields in the Midwest. They don't care about that. They just want more subsidies to fight climate change. And the Republicans want $1.5 trillion. That's 30 trillion rand to subsidize our farmers. Wrong. The chair of the committee, Representative Glenn Thompson of Pennsylvania, said in a statement that the bill, which will set farm, nutrition, commodity, and conservation policy for the next 5 years, is a product of extensive feedback from stakeholders and all members of the House and is responsive to the needs of farm country through the incorporation of hundreds of bipartisan policies. The legislation funds programs across 12 titles for 5 years. 942-page bill. Wow. Unbelievable. Representative David Scott, a demon rat from Georgia, slammed the draft bill for taking food out of the mouths of hungry American children, restricting farmers from receiving the climate-smart conservation funding they desperately need, and barring the USDA from providing financial assistance to farms in times of crisis. Nobody should be receiving financial assistance. Nobody. And why in the world does a farm bill have money for children at school? completely unrelated. If they want money for children at school for the school lunch program, it should be funded through the Department of Education, not the Agriculture Department. Well, getting a conviction against Donald Trump may prove to be tricky, although that doesn't mean anything because idiot jurors can make any decision. But the prosecution has failed to even introduce the crime that would make it a crime for what Donald Trump has already done. Sound confused? You should be. And Donald Trump will appeal this decision when it comes out. Prosecution's case hangs on an alleged second crime that hasn't even been spelled out. As they go to their final summations, they haven't even said to the jury what the crime is. Manhattan prosecutors have framed their case against Donald Trump as a simple story about the criminal cover-up of a sex scandal. But to win the conviction, they would have to convince jurors that Trump orchestrated the cover-up with the intent of concealing another crime. But they have not told anybody what the other crime is. Jury deliberations in the first criminal trial could begin this week. Closing arguments will be the prosecution's last chance to spell out the alleged second crime and convince jurors that Trump intended to commit it. What the hell is this? How can you hold a trial for 6 weeks without having introduced the criminal charge against Donald Trump? They haven't even introduced a criminal charge. And they're going to find him guilty? Give me a break. You're going to introduce a criminal charge at closing arguments? How can the defense defend itself? How can they call witnesses when closing arguments have begun and you can introduce a crime that you're charging someone with as it's over? This is immoral. It's unjust. Nicklin Clark scores 22 points in the Fever's third defeat. She has a number of turnovers once again. That's proving to be the Achilles heel of the young freshman rookie point guard for the Indiana Fever on a terrible team. Drafted by an absolutely terrible team, but she scored 22 points as winless Indiana Fever suffered their third straight defeat. She had a heck of a game, though, folks. A heck of a game, scoring 10 points in the first quarter. She shot 53% from the field, and she had a large number of assists and rebounds. Well done, Nicklin Clark. But she did have 8 turnovers again. She's got a lot of turnovers here. And they'll keep criticizing Nicklin Clark, but she's a rookie. Have a heart. Give the woman a break. Wow, we lost a lot of viewers here. I know where they went. I guarantee it. Let me go take a look and see if that's where they went. Let me look. I'll bet you I know where they went. Yep, 61 people over there. We lost a lot of viewers. And I'm guessing we lost the viewers because they lost interest. And I'm sorry to hear that. We, the jury, find Donald Trump guilty of something at the trial. Exactly. Apparently they don't need a charge. Yep. All right, what have I missed here in the chat? That's the news for today, folks. Let me see what else you guys have got here to say. I got the membership there. Then, God, these new political parties can talk crap. ANC makes statements based on innuendo. Facts do not ever come into it, says Charles. True. Okay. What else we got here? Not a lot of chat took place. You guys must have been listening intently to the news. And Debbie Ells, as I said, there's so much dirt that must be exposed. Debbie, do tell. You tell us some of the dirt. Glad to see Debbie's doing well. I hope you've overcome your health issues. Hank Klopper's here. Dolly and Pofu. I'm aware that Dolly and Pofu is a lawyer. He's in the EFF, but he's also a lawyer for many ANC reprobates, including Jacob Zuma before he went MK. Yep. Ireland lost. My type of game. Yes, Charles, I'll blame Israel. Sue Walsh says, came in late today, Colonel. Did you read that Devin Hoffmeyer has been suspended? Not only did I read it, Sue, but I produced a video on it. And the video was posted before this live stream. So that video has how many views? Let me see. Not many because we're still shadow banned. 197, though. We got 10 comments, 24 likes. So already 10 comments on that video. Let me see if I can't pull it up over here, view on YouTube. So not only, Sue, am I aware of it and read about it, but I've actually also been in touch with Neil DeBeer, who responded to me, although his comments are not part of my video. So let me play this. So anyway, yeah, so I'm aware of it. Thank you for that, Sue. And Brian doesn't like Neil DeBeer. Referendum party in the Cape of Good Hope may be the only functional part of Africa. I don't say South Africa as will be an independent country. Well, John, good luck with that. Although I think a lot of people are going to be angry because you have the Union Jack in your in your avatar. You might want to change it to the Cape of Good Hope flag. John Wyatt was by far the best Irish player, says Courtney. Declan says, I just watched a video on New York stores closing their doors left, right, and center, mostly due to crime. think you might need to change the government even more than we do. I don't live in New York, so not an issue for me at the moment. Although my neighborhood being populated by Nepalese and Afghans and Arabs and people from Haiti and everything else is having an impact here. Crime has begun to pick up locally, which is unfortunate. Crocotopia is back. Greetings from London. Did you vote today? I thought the vote was yesterday. Anyway, good luck voting there. And what else we got here? Are they black if they don't vote for him? Yeah, exactly. Hey, Charles was left wing. Oh, I was left wing too. On the rugby pitch, not politically. Shiphead load shedding. They should have an upcoming election. Scrum half and fly half. Okay. Courtney says all the more reason to switch to clean energy. No, it's not. It's not a reason to impoverish people by switching to the fantasy of clean energy. Can I take a chance on nuclear energy in South Africa? Well, that's a fair point, but modular reactors, small modular reactors do work. Yep. Declan says, I'm sick of people being anti-Trump, even family, and why? Because they don't like his personality, never mind the security of the entire Western world. Yeah, Declan, I agree with you 100%. Again, I've said people, you don't have to like somebody to vote for them. I mean, come on. So I'm going to make a video here. Not sure if I'll do it today, but there is a thing released in the South African press. Let me see if I can find here real quick. This is it here. Yeah. Well, actually, I think I saved the text somewhere. Give me a second. See if I saved the text here. Is this it? No, that's not it. Yeah, here it is. So, no, that's not it. But that's the site. So I'm going to make a video. There's a survey that was done, and Murmur is one of the groups involved in it, by a South African organization purporting to be objective, that is looking at the tweets associated with the MK party and using that to encourage the government to censor speech. Quite frankly, if you're dumb enough to believe what you read on Twitter without investigating for yourself or believing something instantaneously, that's on you. And if it affects the vote, so what? I mean, look, the ANC is lying on the campaign trail every single day. They sent Balete and Tokyo Sexwale and Thabo Mbeki out to lie to South Africans and tell them how well the country is going and just give us more time, just give us more time. And those are just lies. That's disinformation and misinformation, but none of these think tanks that are in league with the political elites in South African America are calling for censorship of ANC politicians or the Democrats who lie on the campaign trail, or the Republicans for that matter. No, they're simply calling for censorship of you and me on social media. Why? Because the truth might get out there in the wild. We don't want the truth to get in the wild. God forbid. We actually tell people what's happening, let them judge for themselves, let them use their critical thinking skills, assuming they have them. But that's what's going on here. That's what's going on. So they want disinformation. See, this is what this censorship is all about, folks. Let me tell you right now. Political elites want disinformation to be the sole purview and prerogative of political elites. Canada is going to ban all speech as hate speech, essentially. Yep, Justin Trudeau, any opposition to the government, you will be in prison potentially for life for hate speech. And of course, they determine what hate speech is. So if I say that Juicy Trudeau is a little wussy, that could be hate speech. I've impugned his dignity. Or if I went with the little trope that Justin Trudeau is actually the son of Fidel Castro, which is silly but funny, then I can be in prison for life in Canada. These people are lunatics. It's all about preserving disinformation, misinformation, propaganda to be the exclusive purview of political elites at our expense. Well, I'm glad you prefer my stream, Dave. Appreciate that. Steve Hofmeyer related to Devin. Yes, Courtney, Steve Hofmeyer is Devin's father. Twitter's full of deceptive imagery and propaganda, especially in South African space. Yeah, and so read what comes out of Washington. Read what comes out of Pretoria. That's also full of deception and misleading statements all the time. So what's your point? I judge what I read on Twitter just as harshly as what I judge from D.C. or Pretoria. Kuberg has saved our bacon for how long? Yeah, well, it's also been a problem from time to time. Ndonga's back. I voted ANC yesterday, May 29th. We're storming into a people's landslide victory. Ndonga's back. Congratulations. Fantastic. Got a chance to waste your vote, Ndonga. I'm glad to see that you are committed to your black supremacist ANC. Congratulations on your vote. Excellent. Excellent. How do you know it's silly? Do you know Trudeau's mom? No, I don't, Arctic. I don't know Trudeau's mom. I know he looks a little bit like Fidel Castro. Yes, exactly. There's no such thing as hate speech. There's no such thing as a hate crime. All crimes are hateful. Nobody rapes someone because, I love her. I love him. I'm going to go rape him. Yeah, no, that doesn't work that way, folks. No one breaks into your home and robs you because they love you. No one steals your car because they love you. Every crime is a hate crime. And giving people special privilege because of their status is simply wrong. Here's the irony in South Africa. The vast majority of South Africans, 80% today, are black South Africans. Yet they need laws to protect the majority against being called names by the minority, who have no power. That's just comical. Ndonga's Pakati inside. Well, congratulations. Yep. Well, he may be the only one outside of South Africa voting for the ANC in the broad vote. It may very well be the case. Yikes. Anyway. These efforts by governments to criminalize speech are just comical. I mean, listen, free speech comes with responsibility. We've seen the abuse of free speech here in America where our government has violated the Constitution and no charges have been brought against any member of the Trump administration or the Biden regime for circumventing the First Amendment to the Constitution to violate our constitutionally protected natural rights. You see, the FBI, the National Institutes for Health, the CDC, and the White House have all been exposed for trying to cajole, coerce, or collaborate with Twitter to silence American speech. And we know they've done it with YouTube as well. We just don't have the prima facie evidence of it. We have the prima facie evidence from the Twitter files. And nobody has been charged by the Department of Injustice in this country, this corrupt country. Not a single government official who had committed these crimes has been charged with a violation of the Constitution. Not a single one. The First Amendment to the U.S. Constitution states, the Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion, and I'll translate that, no state religion, no Church of England, or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. In other words, if you have faith, you can practice it. That was violated during the lockdown when officials in Alabama threatened to arrest people attending a church service at a drive-in movie theater who weren't even near each other, with their windows up in cars with space between them, and the priest not even present. The reverend was broadcasting over the screen through an online meeting. Or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press. Congress shall make no law. Government authorities cannot restrict our free speech. Now, there are constraints on speech. You cannot go into a crowded theater and yell fire because it presents a public safety hazard. But if you want to walk in the street and say Joe Biden is a lunatic, that is your prerogative. That is your prerogative. So Ndonga is now insulting my country, living here and insulting it. So get the fuck out, Ndonga. If you don't think it's the land of the free and brave, then why are you here? Are you parasitically sucking our resources? Is that why you're here? You're here and you're parasitically sucking our resources and insulting America? Then go away. Go away. If you don't think it's the land of the free. I don't live in South Africa. I visited, but I don't live there. Oh, he didn't run away. He just came here to expand my career into U.S. tax. Oh, taxes. Oh, well, that'll make you very popular with Americans. The IRS is one of the least respected and trusted and most corrupt organizations in all of America. Yep. All right. No need to use profanity here or attack people. Knock it off. Yeah, right. Communists don't believe in taxes. Actually, they do. They confiscate your wealth. Yep. Yeah, they do. They confiscate your wealth. What is this? I have no idea what Courtney was just typing there. Yeah, Trudeau has no dignity whatsoever. He's a fascist totalitarian dictator who violated the Canadian Basic Rights document, something that ironically didn't exist in Canada until his father, Pierre Trudeau, promulgated in 1980, and he broke it. He broke it. Yeah. No, these countries are all gone. And we're all on our own, folks. Apparently, the Havana and Beijing consulates have plenty of ANC voters. Really. Dave doesn't agree with everything Chris Wyatt stands for, but I listen to it because I learned. Well, I don't know what you don't like that where we have disagreements there, Dave, but thank you for sharing that. Yep. Anyway. All right. Stop the abuse back and forth in the chat, folks. No reason for that. Anyway, as I was saying, it's Cricket World Cup. Yes, with the apparently lack of transformative, South African cricket team, the T20. You're talking about the T20 World Cup, right? If you guys haven't caught on and Ndonga's just playing a game here, you really need to catch on. The latest statement should make it pretty clear that he's playing a game. Anyway, the book that I'm reading, that I'm going to try to get the author on as a guest, is Not Stolen. Talks about the lies perpetrated against the Europeans who settled in America and the fantasies promulgated and perpetrated and propagated by leftist hate wankers since the 1960s about the noble Indian who is in accord with his environment, which is all horse manure. We hear this all the time about indigenous people. Like the Maori, they're not indigenous. They're not indigenous to New Zealand. They're colonists who wiped out the flora and fauna of the island before Europeans even arrived. The Moas, completely exterminated by the rapacious Maori people. Another super chat. Thank you for that. Sushi beer. It's not shush beer. It's shush beer. And Five Guys Burgers. Yeah, Arctic, we disagree on that one. That's for sure. We do disagree on that. But we don't disagree on Durvors. We don't disagree on that at all. Man, I was eating that stuff up. Thank you so much for that purchase, Arctic. I appreciate that. By the way, Arctic flies in the States, but we've actually met in Linwood. Yep. Professional, authentic, and current. Well, thank you for that, Chris. And that's, people ask me why I go back to Africa. Well, I go back to Africa and I go back to Europe because in order to be current and not just be simply an academic, I'm an academic and a practitioner, which is rare. Finding someone that does both is unusual. But I've been both and I continue to be both. And finding someone that does both, I think is important because academics are disconnected from the things they talk about. They do research, but research isn't living experience. Research isn't participating in the decision-making that makes history. Being a practitioner makes you part of that. Being an academic makes you somebody that analyzes that, and being an analyst brings it all together and makes for a better product. And that's my view anyway. So, yeah. Oh, more Dorvorst are coming, yes. 95% of arable land is in white hands. Wrong! Wrong. And Ndonga. Oh, gosh. 2017 land survey proves you wrong, brother. 27%. Yep, that's simply not true. Not true. That's a lie. Dude, so this is why, guys, I'm glad Ndonga's here because it's fun to just, tear apart his fantasies and his propaganda. And by the way, all the stuff he was spewing the other day was all just right out of Thabo Mbeki's playbook. It was pretty entertaining. Let me get to my file and I'll pull up my report and then I'll show you the screen capture from, where's my show all posts? Come on. There we go. Where's my articles? Well, they've changed it. I don't like how LinkedIn has changed things. So, South Africa, land and poverty. Solutions for the benefit of South Africans, not their politicians. I wrote this article on April 7th of 2018 while I was still serving in the U.S. Army. That's not the one I want. This is the one I want. There we go. So, there you go. That's God's window. Anyway. All right. So, let's go down here and find it. Okay. The number of individual landowners per race. Now, the percentage of land is still high, but it's down around 50% now. So, of the individual landowners in South Africa, in the November 2017 land audit conducted by the African National Congress 2017, there were 181,532 landowners in South Africa. Of the 181,000, 95,653 or 53% were white. So of the landowners, the formal landowners in South Africa, just over half were white in 2017. That number's gone down precipitously since then. 22% were black, 12% were colored, 9% were Indian, which is far in excess of their percentage population, and 4% were other, which were people, the way they defined the race was different. So there you have it. There you have it. Now, of the actual land that's owned by whites, the percentage of land, of arable land, is not 95%. That's simply fiction. Only 13% of South Africa's land surface is arable, and of that, about 69-70% is owned by whites, and the last information was publicly available. I don't have current information because it's now a few years. The ANC is hiding that information. So, let's put this in perspective. Now, this was based on the population back then. Proponents claim that poor black South Africans are poor because they own no land. This is dishonest. Most human beings own no land. Few South Africans of any race own farmland. 181,532 South Africans, or 0.0034% of South Africans, own a total 419,000 farms. One need not own land to avoid or escape poverty. Case in point. The key is good governance and education. The ANC has failed on education and must seriously address its failures in this area. Apartheid governance ensured that most whites got quality education, most blacks did not. 24 years later, it appears that few white or black South Africans in public schools are getting a quality education. Additionally, there are painfully few success stories on transfer of land from white owners to black owners. This is also an ANC failure. Yep. So the 2017 land audit in Ndonga, there you go. I provide you with the facts, not your supposition. Yep. Well, you guys are chatting with them, so why not? And we've done the news. But that's the article that I wrote back in 2017, folks. 2018, excuse me. And I said, 2.5 decades after the end of apartheid and South Africa's first universal democratic elections, millions of South Africans, mostly black, live in poverty, many surviving solely on public assistance in the form of grants. The argument which some advance is that the current situation results of several factors, chiefly white monopoly capital, white farmland tenure, and black dispossession, racism, individual and institutional, or collusion between the ruling ANC and corporate interests. Poverty in South Africa has many causes, not the least of which is the enduring legacy of dispossession and inequality stemming from racist policies of the apartheid era. However, the popular narrative advanced by Julius Malema and his economic freedom fighters, and by many in the ruling African National Congress, is inaccurate, dishonest, and misleading. Rather than devote time to debunk those arguments, which warrants a paper of its own, I'll offer a few suggestions that would reduce poverty and improve the standard of living for all South Africans. Establish a national sovereign wealth fund. Reform, resource, redeploy the South African police service. Reform public education. Eliminate corruption and corrupt practices in government. Implement genuine land reform, not window dressing. Those are my 5 solutions to solve South Africa's poverty, none of which have been undertaken by the corrupt ANC and Ndonga's party of favor. Land is a sensitive issue in South Africa. Land tenure is essential to a country's well-being. Clear title to land is invaluable. With clear title, landowners have equity which they can pledge to borrow money. Banks can accept risk if one owns land to pledge as collateral. Centuries of conflict, settlement, colonization, and conquest ended in the formation of South Africa as a country from an amalgamation of British colonies, African kingdoms, and independent Boer republics a little over a century ago in 1910. The introduction of race-based legislation meant to impoverish non-whites succeeded and dramatically skewed land tenure from 1913 onwards. Restoration of land to the dispossessed was a key consideration in negotiations in the early 1990s to end apartheid. However, the negotiated settlement to end apartheid was contingent on inclusion of constitutional protections for landowners and a mechanism to redress land claims arising from the 1910 to 1994 timeframe. The solution is under attack today. Proponents claim black South Africans are poor because they own no land. Simply a lie. A lie. But in order to address land debate, you've got to ask a few questions. Who has lost land since 1910? That's the date South Africa became a nation state following the Union of South Africa Act of 1910. Prior to this date, the land of modern South Africa was part of the British colonial possessions, independent Boer republics, black African kingdoms, or ungoverned indigenous space. Any land issue prior to the formation of South Africa should be reasonably considered long since settled as a consequence of conquest and settlement, like the following events: European colonization and assimilation of the Khoi and San, the Boer-Xhosa Wars in the Eastern Cape, the Zulu-Mfukane, Boer-Bantu Wars with the Pedi, the Ndebele, the Sotho, the Tswana, and others, Anglo-Boer War, which ended the independence of the Boers, Conquest and assimilation are the story of human migration in history. This is far from unique to Southern Africa and not a white or black phenomenon. It is human. So who wants the land? That's the next question. The rabid and emotional narrative in current discourse, which continues to this day, is caustic and racial. Neither is helpful to the dispossessed, the innocent, or South Africa's reputation. It's unlikely that 43 million black residents of South Africa want to own land or have any use for land. The discussion of black land is disingenuous. There are at least 5 million non-South African blacks living in the country. They have no legitimate claim to the land. It is also racist and treats people based on the skin color, ignoring the reality that everyone is of African origin. So what do people want the land for? What's its intended purpose? This is an important consideration. Productive farmland should not be confiscated simply to hand land over to people who have no intent or ability to use it effectively. Even ANC comments on the constitutional amendment specifically state that the government will not harm agricultural production. One need look only north to the shameful destruction of productive farms and parceling out of land in Zimbabwe that, in tiny parcels, is unusable. So where would the claimants like to own the land? Well, this is actually a very good question. It matters because priority should be given to those dispossessed under racist laws and through the course of apartheid. Do claimants want to return to their origins, or are they willing to accept compensation elsewhere? Land given to or sold to blacks and then resold to whites cannot be considered white hands, or the land issue will always be misinterpreted. We have many cases of land that was purchased by the government, transferred to black farmers, and then they sold it, and whites bought the land. You cannot legitimately consider that land to be up for consideration. Yep. But to this honest inclusion of such acreage in the land totals is no mention of the acreage previously returned to blacks is unhelpful. Such action permits an endless abuse of the issue for political gain. So what plans are there for agricultural support, extension services, and vocational technical skills training? This must be one of the most serious failures of land reform in South Africa. The ANC has bought a lot of land and done little with it, aside from rewarding the Guptas. Owning land means little if you lack skills, experience, machinery, know-how, capital, and so on. What is the government's plan to address these issues? How does the agriculture industry contribute to this effort? You don't just buy a plot, cut it into rectangles, and then hand out deeds to people based on their skin color. Is there a partnership plan for fixing this issue together? Landowners, farmers, government, provincial, and national. Anyway, so this is what I said. Here are prudent steps to a fair redress of land in South Africa. Number one, complete an honest national public review and debate of all land, state, traditional trust, private land tenure, which includes identification of all land taken from owners or occupants from 1910, 1994, and settlements since 1994. Use existing legal mechanisms to acquire and distribute land and monitor land under the willing buyer, willing seller program. There should be a renunciation of all land claims prior to 1910. And there is precedent for this. In 1970, the Germans renounced claims on land east of the Oder River. Claims to land lost in 1687 do little to improve anything today. The period from 1910 to 1994 is a period in history when a racist legal system was used to dispossess people based on race. This was not unique in human history. What is unique is the ruling class did not lose a war, were not conquered, and never surrender political authority. Instead, accepting the immorality of their system, those political elites negotiated a peaceful end, and all parties to CODESA, the Convention for Democratic South Africa, agreed to and accepted a multiracial democratic state based on market capitalism and sought racial reconciliation. Land claims prior to this time are historical and a betrayal of what was accomplished at the end of the last millennium. Yeah, and remove racial injections in the arguments. So, whites are not the only people who took land via conquest or displacement. Zulu displaced, eliminated, or absorbed many tribes and spread their power base through KwaZulu-Natal and further. Bantus displaced Khoi and San. Large segments of land prior to 1910 where whites settled were open and unoccupied, parts of the Western Cape, land towards the Great Fish River, much of the Free State and north of the Vaal River, owing to the Mfukane. Race is a legitimate topic post-1913's Native Lands Act and later apartheid policies and should be part of the public debate. Apartheid was race-based and denigrated and dispossessed millions of non-white South Africans. This is a fact and cannot be ignored. However, attacking people today for actions taken by others is unreasonable. Withdraw the constitutional amendment and expropriate without compensation immediately. It violates the current constitution. It violates the spirit of reconciliation that made a negotiated settlement even possible in the first place. It is a betrayal. It violates the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Its application will be arbitrary and is an unfair mechanism to redress wrongs. This law would allow the government to confiscate property purchased at any time. No government can be trusted to work exclusively in the interest of its citizens. The ANC's acceptance of massive corruption in its midst and on its watch is evidence of this. Further evidence of this is a 24-year failure to use existing mechanisms to adequately redress the wrongs on the land issue. Today it will be commercial farmers. Tomorrow it will be homeowners who criticize the government of the day. This is a dangerous tool and will be used to harm South Africans regardless of their race or origin. Are you listening, black South Africans? Politicians can and will use the law to silence critics, weaken foes, and abuse average citizens. So there you go. There's more to it, but that's what I wrote. So they don't tell you how many people viewed it anymore. It used to tell me. That sucks. I hate that. It used to tell me how many people viewed this, but they haven't done that, so shame on them. Anyway, I've written 44 articles on that platform. Anyway, so, wow, people leaving left and right. ANC expanded education. Apartheid restricted education access to blacks. No, you've said that before, and I've disproven your argument. There were schools for blacks in South Africa. The ANC has simply lied to the public and made things worse. Yep. Most unequal society, reverse poverty. Well, rich, nope. Reverse poverty, you have to give education. Stealing from people who are successful just makes them less successful, and eventually that money runs out. Yep. It sounds like a 30%er, says Hendrik. RJ says, you should reach out to Armin Navabi. He's an ex-Muslim comedian living in Iran. He's a critic of the regime and had incitement to totalitarianism. Okay, Arvin, 139, where's that at? I don't know who that is. That came from RJ. There it is. Okay, RJ, I'll make a note of that. Well, that'll get me a freaking fatwa issued against me. Still have the Leinster lineup sitting here on my screen. There we go. All right, I've saved that now. Okay. Yeah, Dr. Wyatt Kesey was a black doctor. He got, again, so we're going to run through this for Ndonga and for everybody present. Dr. Wyatt Kesey went to primary school, secondary school, university, medical school, did his internship, and practiced medicine in apartheid South Africa. He was one of thousands, tens of thousands of black doctors. Yep. Radine, you were very late to the program. It was one of my opening statements. I covered the story of the Iranian president. In fact, let me take a look and see if there's an update on that. Iran, see if there's an update on that news. Okay. No change. We don't know. We don't know if what's happened to him. Iran arrested 260 people, including 3 European citizens, for spreading Satanism and nudity 2 days ago. Oh, yeah. This fascist regime. Iranian police have arrested more than 260 people, including 3 European citizens, on suspicion of spreading Satanism, the state-run news agency reported. Wow. Report said the suspects were arrested in Shayar County, west of Tehran, for spreading the culture of Satanism and nudity. 146 men, 115 women. Wow. Doesn't say what they did. Satanism. And those people are dangerous, Iran. Dangerous, and have been for such a long time. Such a long time. Anyway. P. Diddy Combs says he's sorry, truly sorry, for assaulting Cassie Ventura. He got caught assaulting a woman. Interesting. Blue Origin did launch its 6th space towards the edge of space. Wow, 2-year wait. That was, people were waiting for that launch earlier, so apparently they pulled it off right about the time it went live here. Blue Origin's tourism rocket has launched passengers to the edge of space for the first time in 2 years, ending a hiatus prompted by a failed uncrewed last test flight. The New Shepard rocket and capsule lifted off at 9:36 Central, so 10:36, just before it went live here. Yeah, from their West Texas ranch. So there you go. Pretty cool. Cool stuff. Anyway. All right, so where are we at over here now? The chat's up to date there. Dr. Wyatt Kesey with an exception, not the rule. I never said he was the rule in Ndonga. you said that you're saying that no blacks got education, which is simply factually wrong. Simply pointing out where you got it wrong. Never claimed it. He was majority. Never claimed it. Would not be surprised if the Biden regime wants to start a war to save the re-election. I wouldn't be surprised too, Redeem. It's a pretty scary thought there. Well, apartheid was a bad idea. So is the ANC. So is the ANC. Raids on so-called Satanist gatherings are not uncommon. The deeply conservative Islamic, often targeting parties or concerts with alcohol. Yep, they usually go after places with alcohol. These people are dangerous. They are subjugating millions, and they're the friends of the ANC. The Palestinian Liberation Organization subjugated Arabs to the Palestinian notion under Yasser Arafat, and it continues under Hamas today, imprisoning Arabs. We have Persians imprisoned by a fascist theocratic state in Iran. Goes on and on. Anyway, so there you have it. So, all right, folks. What's this? No idea what you guys are talking about there. Anyway, let me check a look on my UIM video and see what came up on that, if anything. It's not having a lot. It's got 293 views. Let's see if that's correct. 293 views. Oh, it's at 500. Sorry. Okay, that's better. 500 views. Okay, YouTube's a little slow on that. 500 views on that Devin Hofmeyer one. Can't pull one exception and parade him as an epitome of black thing. It's not distasteful. It's factual. And it's not one exception, not one example. There are plenty of examples. Plenty of examples. There are also plenty of examples of blacks who were successful under apartheid, including Herman Mashaba, who became a multimillionaire under apartheid and became even wealthier, made more millions under the ANC. So there you go. The list goes on and on. You're welcome, Hester. Thanks for being here. What's this about? For armed forces? What? Oh, I guess people are leaving now. All right. Well, I guess I'll leave too then if you're all going to leave. Goodbye. Have a good day. Have a good one. Thanks for being in, folks. Check out my videos. I'm producing a couple more videos, one on ANC funding and another on this think tank, which probably won't get many views, but I think it's still worth pointing out how they're trying to interfere with elections in South Africa and trying to affect free speech. All right. Catch you guys later. Thanks for being here. Have a good one. Appreciate it. Have a lovely evening. Always a pleasure, guys. Take care. Yep. Yeah, Nelson Mandela became a practicing lawyer in South Africa. That's correct. Yep. And so did Mahatma Gandhi become a practicing lawyer in South Africa during, not apartheid, but pre-apartheid, during racist times. Yep. People are very selective in their memory. Notice there was no pushback on my pointing out the land survey of 2017. Spot on, wasn't it? Yep. Because I use facts, not supposition. If I'm giving you supposition, I tell you that. I don't declare it as a fact. Cheers, folks.